Dallas Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Donnell Willis, thank you so much and welcome to Eye on Politics.
Glad to be here.
So let me ask you, what do you make of the political uproar this past week ever since the Dallas Mavericks CEO Rick Welts had revealed that he had a conversation more than a year ago with the city manager in which she had suggested that the council may decide to move out of City Hall because the maintenance is so expensive, the deferred maintenance, before going to council and putting this on the table?
Well, I think you made an important distinction there, and I am glad Mr. Welts has added some depth around that conversation. But our city manager is our chief executive officer, and I would expect her to be out in the community all the time having conversations with business leaders and community leaders, and knowing that City Hall had deferred maintenance and that this would be an item coming before the city council more than likely over the course of the next year, that I don't think it's unreasonable for her to bring that up in a conversation and share that there could be a tough decision to be made.
And so you think, because a lot of council members, well, let me back up. Some council members told me themselves they didn't like this. They were caught off guard by this. They said they thought that the city manager, Kim Tolbert, should have come to council first, not when discussing keeping the teams in Dallas, but when you're talking about, specifically saying City Hall, there may be a better use for City Hall. You disagree?
Well, I think that it's you have to be careful about how far are we going to go with regulating the kind of conversations and the subject matter that our executive officer can have with business and community leaders. Not every topic that she may bring up in a conversation needs to be pre-approved by a committee. I would think that Dallas would be a standalone if we operated that way and not in a good way. So you have to have latitude, and also I'm sure a number of subjects are covered when she's meeting with the business community. And so I don't necessarily find it unreasonable in the course of a conversation with one of our sports teams whose lease we know is expiring in 2031 to start looking out ahead of where do they want to go? What's the fan experience that NBA teams of today and tomorrow are going to need to remain viable? What are the team's needs? That, I would imagine, has changed over the past 25 or 30 years. So where is their head in the conversation? And where would the city be, knowing that we'd like to keep our sports team, our Dallas Mavericks, in Dallas?
And let me ask you, as far as the process is concerned, I interviewed Mayor Eric Johnson last week, and I asked him about some of the criticism from some members on council that they didn't think this process has been very transparent. He totally disagreed with that and said it's been very transparent. Where do you see it?
Well, every step of the process has been part of the public record. This decision will be made by the Dallas City Council. And so the presentations we've seen, the discussions at the Horseshoe have been a matter of public debate. We've had a number of public speakers. We get our inbox is filled with perspectives on City Hall from residents with lots of ideas about yes, stay, yes, go, here's how you should do the repairs. So I would say we've had no shortage of input on this issue, but it has definitely been part of the public arena as far as the subject matter and the numbers. The exhaustive work that was done to evaluate the building is all online for anyone who'd like to peruse those 6,500 pages.
And do you have a lot of confidence in the numbers, the $329 million to make the repairs and the $1 billion estimate on what it would take to modernize the building for use over the next 20 years?
Well, I'm not an expert in this, but the city hired licensed independent professionals who used industry standards to put these numbers together by. And this is the process that other cities have used to evaluate their city hall and their real estate portfolios. And in fact, this is a practice that the private sector uses as well. You hire the experts to give you an evaluation. Now, the only limitation and why those numbers might not be right might be that they could be higher versus lower because they base their numbers on what they could observe. Nobody has cracked into these concrete walls to explore some of the concerns that have been raised. So if anything, I would think that the number could actually go higher than what we've seen.
And I know that Council Member Kara Mendelson had referred to a 3-year-old document that detailed a new heating system for City Hall 3 years ago. She put that out on X, implying that, hey, there has been some maintenance on this, and perhaps these numbers are inflated. Other council members think the numbers are inflated. What do you say to all that?
Well, I think that's a common misconception is that there hasn't been any work done. There's been a little, really the bare minimum year after year, just to keep it habitable for a lot of people, thousands of people to come here every day and do their job. And so to suggest that that maintenance is, has been taken on by leaps and bounds, I think is a stretch. So there are some other documents I've seen put out about how the number has grown over time. Well, if you look at the documents further, and it's not even in the fine print, you just have to read it, it's that there have been some estimates done that might have addressed a portion of the need. I served on the 2017 Critical Facilities Bond Subcommittee, and I know that the number that the staff came to us with was what they thought might pass muster at committee and then ultimately with voters. It was nowhere near what the reality of the repairs that are needed at City Hall would have been.
And let me ask you, as far as when you are ultimately making this decision about what to do with the City Hall, I know when I asked the mayor about it, he said it's not just about comparing the costs of making the repairs and keeping City Hall versus moving to another building and perhaps selling the land. It's what is the opportunity what's the opportunity for that land as far as potential for private development? Is that where you're at?
Well, I think we have to explore every option. And I think that the taxpayers of Dallas deserve an exhaustive process to look at all these options to arrive at the best, most sensible, pragmatic decision because, this is their tax dollars. So yes, you need to look at what are the real cost of repairs of City Hall to the best of the ability of industry experts using industry standards to evaluate what they can without going to the expense of boring into the building. You also have to look at the fact that downtown has a lot of buildings that may have vacancy and that having the city of Dallas and our thousands of employees as an occupant could put us in a pretty competitive situation to get finish out, maybe new council chambers, a new plaza for the public to gather. So we owe it to ourselves to explore that on behalf of our taxpayers. And then another thing that you hear on any kind of real estate or zoning case is the phrase highest and best use. And so, this corner of downtown 50 years ago is not what it's going to be in 3 years when a $3 billion convention center that I'm looking out my window at right now will be open and become very vibrant, bringing people to Dallas from around the country and around the world. It's going to reshape the kinds of businesses that you see down here, the dining, the entertainment, the cultural experiences, and the housing, which we were briefed at yesterday at council on our tremendous need for more housing. So it may be that this site is better used for getting at that critical need of our city. So understanding what the highest and best use is not something we should be afraid of. It's something that I think we should want to know.
And you probably did hear Rick Weltz's additional comments. You referred to them earlier that he made on Tuesday, and I think he said it last Friday as well, that they're talking about not only a new arena, but their new headquarters, a new practice facility, a hotel, more than maybe one hotel, office, retail, restaurants, etc. So what kind of spark, if that does happen, do you think that could bring to that part of downtown if it comes to?
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any proposals or, anything
Sure.
concrete on that, but I think it's fair to have that discussion because that's not unlike what the city would be talking about. When you have a $3 billion convention center and they've already booked 71 conventions for 2030 forward, that's going to be a lot of people coming down here. And the best part is they bring their wallets and their credit cards. And this is other people's money being infused into the Dallas economy. And so, what do they want to do? When you go to a convention, sure, you're going to be in the convention center, but then you're going to go out to eat. If you're able to, you're going to want to go and see what the city has to offer. You're probably going to be staying here for a few more hotel nights. And so I think the average visitor stays something like 2.8 nights. And so that helps pay into the hot tax, which is a regenerating fund of other people's money that can go into taking care of our cultural facilities and helping to support our arts and culture in Dallas. And so you also think about shops, about services. You think about all the jobs that's going to mean for this side of downtown. And another critical piece of this is the link to our southern sector. I mean, literally to have this deck to the Cedars and basically a tourist tollway to Fair Park and all that can become. This is a huge opportunity for Dallas. And so that's why we owe it to ourselves, to our taxpayers, to understand what's the best that this can be for the city of Dallas.
Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Donnell Willis, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack.